Hello friends, there's been a lot of hype about the new plant-based vegan burgers that taste like real meat. The two main offenders are the Impossible Burger, which is sponsored by none other than Bill Gates himself, and the Beyond Meat Burger, also sponsored by Bill Gates, the same person who is currently hell-bent on getting everyone stuck with a vaccine needle across the world.
It's Corona time! Hey, it's Corona time right now! It's Corona time!
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Let's take a deep dive and see why the Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat Burger is the last thing you want to put inside your mouth, as it's laced with a well-known carcinogen, in other words, glyphosate. Its main ingredient, glyphosate, has been directly proven to cause cancers, diabetes, neuropathies, obesity, asthma, infections, osteoporosis, infertility, and birth defects.
A few moments later.
Last Sunday, we told you about a WHO report that listed several chemicals as potentially cancer-causing, including glyphosate, found in the popular weed killer Roundup. Now, in an interview for an upcoming French documentary, a Canadian scientist has been caught in an Aaron Brockovich-like moment when he's asked to defend that chemical against links to cancer rates in Argentina. Take a look.
I do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually, but not really. But
not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
Ah, okay, so you...
No, but I know
so it's dangerous, right?
No, people try to commit suicide with it and fail fairly regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's not.
So you're ready to drink one glass of glyphosate?
No, I'm not an idiot.
The clip is being shared widely. But despite headlines like these, the man being interviewed, Patrick Moore, is not a lobbyist for Monsanto, the makers of Roundup. He is, however, known for controversy.
I have somehow evolved into an environmentalist that supports nuclear energy and is somewhat skeptical of human-caused climate change.
Moore spent years early on with Greenpeace Canada, but it no longer recognizes him as a supporter and accuses him of turning into a paid mouthpiece for polluting companies. Meanwhile, glyphosate is still approved for use in this country, though Health Canada says it's looking into the WHO report.
You see, around the world, most major food brands are trying to get rid of genetically modified ingredients because consumers don't want to eat genetically modified food. And this is because primarily for health reasons. But the CEO of Impossible Foods, purveyor of the Impossible Burger, is bucking that trend. The manufacturers of this plant-based vegan burger have already switched to using genetically modified soy. The formula change was made to ensure the smooth rollout of the Impossible Burger in Burger King restaurants. The soy formulation is apparently better able to withstand Burger King's trademark flame grilling. As a result, in early 2019, Impossible Foods dumped the textured wheat protein it had been using and replaced it with soy protein concentrate instead. Pat Brown, founder and CEO of Impossible Foods, publicly defended the move. But a closer look reveals that Brown's claims about the healthfulness and sustainability of Impossible Burger 2.0 just doesn't stack up. Here are 6 reasons the CEO of Impossible Burger is wrong when he claims that genetically modified soy is the safest and most environmentally responsible option for scaling up production of the fake meat product, a product that already uses a genetically engineered yeast called heme as its key ingredient. Number 1. Fake health claims. When the switch to soy was made, Sue Clapholz, Impossible Foods Vice President of Nutrition and Health, said that, quote, Soy is not only safe, it's accessible and nutritious, end quote. That's completely false. Results from the study showing healthful properties of fermented soy products like tofu or miso are sometimes used to support the healthfulness of other, more highly processed types of soy. So in other words, the people in Japan don't eat soy burgers or soy fake meats. They eat organic tofu and miso and natto. They don't eat fake soy meats. So all soy is not created equal. In the messy world of soy studies, where soy can be defined as almost anything with soy in it, there are just as many studies showing no or only marginal benefits, and in some cases potential for harm. Interference with thyroid medication, for example, from diets high in soy. Soy protein isolates and concentrates are made from defatted soybean flakes that have been washed in either alcohol or water to remove the sugars and dietary fiber. The flakes are then processed into powders or flours. Alcohol is the most common process as it produces products with neutral taste, but the beneficial isoflavones in soy are removed by this method. Soy protein concentrate has the lowest level of helpful isoflavones, including diazane, genistein, and glycetane of any form of processed soy. There are other differences between the various types of soy. A 2014 study comparing genetically modified and organic soybeans found small but statistically significant differences in the nutritional quality. The organic soybeans had slightly higher protein levels and lower levels of omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids showed no significant difference. Both fats are essential in human diets, but US eaters tend to consume a higher ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids than is healthy. 2. Higher use of pesticides. Brown says that, quote, careful analysis has conclusively shown GMO soy is better for the environment than the alternatives. Absolutely untrue. GMO soy is horrible. Whether fed to cows or people, it's bad for the environment. A 2013 Food and Water Watch study based on US Department of Agriculture, USDA, and US Protection Agency found that planting GM crops quickly resulted in the growth of herbicide-resistant superweeds, which caused farmers to increase their herbicide use. The report echoed the findings of another study produced by Washington State University research professor Charles Benbrook in 2012. In 2016, research from University of Virginia confirmed that glyphosate-resistant weeds have led to a 28% hike in herbicide use in GM soybeans, compared with non-GM. This has also been seen in other countries including Canada, Brazil, and Argentina. There is also evidence that glyphosate, the active ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup weed killer, accumulates in GM soy. The same study that found GM soy is nutritionally inferior to organic and that GM soy contain high residues of glyphosate and its toxic breakdown product AMPA, while conventional and organic soybeans were free of these agrochemicals. This may help explain why a recent lab analysis by moms across America found glyphosate residues in the new formula Impossible Burger. The levels of glyphosate and its toxic breakdown product AMPA were low, 11 parts per billion. But as the moms note, evidence from animal feed studies indicates that just 0.1 parts per billion of glyphosate can destroy gut bacteria. Other studies of animals fed GM crops and foods and with glyphosate show worrying trends, including damage to vital organs like the liver and kidneys, damage to gut tissues and gut flora, immune system disruption, reproductive abnormalities, and even tumors. Agrochemical companies continue to claim that glyphosate is safe. Yet glyphosate is a probable human carcinogen according to the World Health Organization, and its maker Monsanto, which is now owned by Bayer, has recently been ordered to pay out billions in compensation to victims who developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma as a result of using the weed killer. More cases are pending. 3. No benefits for farmers. According to Brown, the company decided to source, quote, American-grown, milled and processed GM soy that is from farms in Iowa, Minnesota, and Illinois, because there just isn't enough non-GMO soy to meet demand. There is no question that GM soy is more plentiful than non-GM soy in the US. In fact, the US grows more soybeans than any other country except Brazil. According to the USDA, more than 90% of the soybeans harvested on US farms are genetically engineered to withstand herbicides, especially Roundup. That should translate into more crops to sell, but an in-depth investigation by the New York Times found that in addition to increasing pesticides use, genetic modification in the US and Canada has not brought the expected increase in crop yields. This echoes the findings of a 2016 National Academy of Sciences report that found there was little evidence that the introduction of genetically modified crops in the US has led to yield gains beyond those seen in conventional crops. Right now, US farmers are suffering from the glut of soy, thanks to ongoing trade disputes with China, which have resulted in low prices and farm bankruptcies. 4. Kills biodiversity. This adoption of GMO herbicide-resistant crops like soy has favored the use of herbicides over tried and tested methods of weed management, such as crop rotation. In addition to creating superweeds, glyphosate-based herbicides damage microbial life in the soil, which makes crops more susceptible to disease. They are toxic to a range of aquatic organisms and also kill beneficial weeds like milkweed, a major food source for the monarch butterfly. As weeds become resistant, older and stronger pesticides such as 2,4-D or dicamba are being used. In 2017 to 2018, dicamba drift was responsible for damage to an estimated 5 million acres of non-GM soybeans in 24 states, in addition to numerous specialty crops and wild plants. Globally, soy plantations have been responsible for wholesale clearing of forests and savannas in places like Brazil. This clearly affects our environment in that we live in. In the US, land converted to soy production has typically been pre-existing agricultural land and so is not linked to deforestation. But increasing demand for soy is destroying American prairies. Analysis of satellite data has shown that between 2006 and 2011, farmers in Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska has converted 1.3 million acres of grassland into soybean and corn production. Research by Environmental Working Group and the USDA's Economic Research Service supports this finding. These monocultures are bad news for wildlife because they destroy habitats for a wide range of wild creatures, from ground nesting birds to pollinators like bees and butterflies. But crop monocultures also lead to monodiets. Agricultural diversity ensures a healthier environment and greater food security on a global scale. But the over-focus on cash crops like soy means that today just a handful of crops now dominate diets around the world. This new global diet has more calories and less nutrition, and is responsible for the global rise in non-communicable diseases such as obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. 5. No scientific consensus around safety. Brown proclaims there is a scientific consensus that GMOs are safe for consumers and the environment. What a joke. A view now endorsed by the American Medical Association, AMA, the National Academy of Sciences, and the World Health Organization. But Brown's statement is factually untrue. A closer look at these claims shows that AMA's Council on Science and Public Health statement opposing GMO labeling did not claim GMOs are safe. It acknowledged, quote, a small potential for adverse events due to mainly to horizontal gene transfer, allergenicity and toxicity. The AMA recommended mandatory safety assessments prior to release of GM foods, a system which, as the AMA pointed out, is not in place in the US. The National Academy of Sciences has not issued any blanket claims of GMO safety. It did issue a report in which it analyzed a range of plant breeding techniques and concluded that GM posed a higher risk of introducing unintended changes into food than any other crop breeding method other than mutating breeding, a method in which plant genomes are bombarded with radiation or chemicals to induce mutations. The WHO has stated, quote, no effects on human health have been shown as a result of the consumption of GM foods by the general population in the countries where they have been approved, end quote. But take a look at the text that preceded that sentence, quote, different GM organisms include different genes inserted in different ways. This means that individual GM foods and their safety should be assessed on a case-by-case basis, and that it is not possible to make general statements on the safety of all GM foods. End quote. The WHO also recommends that, quote, adequate post-market monitoring is carried out to ensure the safety of GM foods. Yet such monitoring is not carried out anywhere in the world. In fact, GM foods were not subjected to human trials before being released into the food chain. Their human health impacts are not being studied by any government agency, nor by the companies that produce them. That's why nearly 300 independent scientists from around the world issued a public warning that there was no scientific consensus about the safety of eating genetically modified food, and that the risks are demonstrated in independent research gave, quote, serious cause for concern. 6. Ignores consumer concerns. Brown says, quote, "We believe in our consumers and respect their right to consider the facts and decide for themselves." He adds that the inclusion of GMO soy will lead to, quote, "noise from the anti-genetic engineering fundamentals." But concerns about GMOs aren't just noise. They persist because they are legitimate, and because consumers want facts from independent researchers and other sources who are not paid mouthpieces for the GMO industry or brands with a bias. US consumers overwhelmingly want GMO foods labeled so they can make real informed choices. Impossible Foods has chosen to ignore both legitimate concerns and the desire for choice by insinuating its fake meat burger onto the market via independent restaurants, large restaurant chains, theme parks, museums, stadiums, college campuses, and corporate offices, places where no food labeling is required and where customers are less likely to ask questions. It's time to demand more from the food we eat, better protection from our regulators, and a higher level of truthfulness and transparency from food brands. So as you can see, friends, every time you vote with your wallet by buying the revolting vegan burgers such as the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Meat Burger, you're not only destroying your own health, but you're killing nature, soil, animals, and pollinating insects. But you're also making evil people like Bill Gates and his masters a whole lot richer. If veganism was about saving this world, the animals, and promoting human health, then no vegan would ever eat the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Meat Burger. But as we all know by now, veganism has become a cult for misanthropy, where the general hatred and contempt of the human species is thriving. This is why eugenicists such as Bill Gates are heavily financing these toxic vegan products. In other words, they're wishing you a slow death.
Drop the bass, Kitty.
And if you want to protect your online privacy and help my channel out at the same time, visit drivenanddesign.com/NordVPN.
It's restorative, causing a heightened energy. It's excellent for diet because it suppresses hunger. It helps your digestive tract. It's anti-diuretic. It acts against fatigue, and most importantly, it acts against altitude sickness.